what I can't always see when I'm engaging with contractors is like, do you have the leadership to create change within your organization? Or do you just sign up for things and then turn around and go on to another project?
Chad Peterman here, and you are listening to Can't Stop the Growth, a platform for leaders and teams to grow and thrive. We highlight the importance of personal development, pursuing greatness, and always chasing your potential. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to another episode of Can't Stop the Growth. I'm your host, Chad Peterman, and today I have a very special guest on the podcast that I've known for some time now. And customer acquisition and retention are not getting any easier in today's world. I know we are continually thinking about how to acquire a customer for cheaper and how to retain them for years to come without having to spend additional marketing dollars. To talk all about how we can accomplish some of these things in today's world, I'm extremely excited to welcome Mr. Paul Redman with Contractor Commerce to the podcast. Welcome to the show.
Chad, thank you. I have to admit, I have this like natural urge to want to interview you today. So I'm going to do my best to be a compliant guest and bring value. But man, I want to hear what's going on in your world, man. How have you been?
Yeah, absolutely. Been good. Summer here in the Midwest, as you probably well remember, is Memorial Day has just passed. And so the kickoff to summer begins. So it's busy season, which is good, considering we didn't have much of a winter. And summer last year was pretty soft. So excited to get back to things rolling, which will be good.
Good. Well, speaking of summer, today is the first day of summer in the Redman household.
Oh.
And on the other side of this wall are 4 kids who want my attention and among all other things. And so if at any point someone breaks through this room and interrupts, we'll have to edit that out. But I'll see you in a couple of weeks. I come up to Indianapolis around every 4th of July and Thanksgiving and see my family. And then I also see every ad, every print newspaper of Peterman Bros. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, you'll have to hit me up. Maybe we can swing in. I know visiting family can sometimes fill up the entire schedule, but we'll figure something out. But well, Paul, tell us a little bit about. I'm sure people have heard by now. I know it's something that we're in the process of launching and have some cool ideas around it. But tell us about Contractor Commerce. Like, what are you guys doing? I know you're doing really cool things, but if people haven't heard, what is it that Contractor Commerce is, and how does it help the contractor?
Yeah, if you really zoom out and think about the founding of the company back around late 2017, 2018, it was really built around this idea that like everyone shops online for just about everything, right? Even pre-COVID, like that was the trend was headed that way. And no contractor has an online store. And so immediately you think like, okay, well, are more or fewer people going to shop online? Is that going to grow or shrink? And we thought it was going to grow. And so we thought, okay, well, this is a perfect category. Let's create this concept of online shopping or e-commerce for contractors. And then of course you have COVID that just accelerated everything. But that idea is good. But the idea that you can just Peterman in 2018, 2019, turn on the lights to an online store and people in Indianapolis are just going to start buying stuff. Like that's kind of that was kind of out of bounds at the time and unrealistic. Even though consumers are going online like madmen, scouring for pricing and trying to configure, what things cost and all of that, like that has just grown and grown and grown. So what we've done is we're really over the course of the last 4 years now is help contractors integrate an e-commerce strategy that kind of taps into that demand of the consumers that are searching online for a lot of things, spending money on Amazon and trying to bring that into the contractors. And so naturally we started with the things that you can actually ship direct to a consumer. And that's where we start with air filters.
Now, I think it's interesting too. I know the one thing we're looking at, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but it's, can filter delivery, like the online store thing, completely get it. But also, and obviously we'll be launching ours here very shortly. Just had a meeting about it last week. But like our view is like, can I essentially acquire a customer for cheaper? So like instead of running ads for plumbing service or HVAC service, we know that that's emergency service, but everybody needs filters. And they've got to buy them from somewhere. So can you run ads at customers, acquire that customer through a filter subscription, and then look to market all your emergency services? Like, what do you think? What are your thoughts on that?
The short answer is yes. It's going to be a lot easier for someone like you who's built a brand and has marketing wherewithal, and you've got your all of those things. Whereas, a smaller company that's just going to run some ads for filters, it's a different story. But what this story is about is it's really about your total addressable market. So if you think about Peterman and you just think about Indianapolis, right? You have a fixed number of homes that you could consider your addressable market, right? Single family for the most part, owner occupied homes you could call your addressable market. You could slim that down a little bit, right? Let's say maybe without me looking at census data, I think Indianapolis, I don't know, let's say 650,000 single family homes, right? That's your addressable market. Well, what we know is that only 1% of that market, if that, during the course of a year, is in the market for a replacement system, right? Some of those customers are under contract with your competitors. Some are under contract with you. Some are brand new, fresh to the market, and they're going online and they're searching and they're going to find ads and Home Advisor. And that's kind of the cycle. And someone's going to get that job and you're going to fight for it. And you might spend a couple $100 a click or whatever it is to get that customer and get the truck out there. And that's the cycle, right? Then if you zoom out a little bit, you've got, a single digit percent of the market that's in their market for demand service, or let's call it maintenance, which is going to be even a smaller category. So you have this entire chunk of a market in an MSA that's completely unaddressable. But what they should be doing is changing their air filter. And the pathway that exists right now, the first pathway is they don't change it. Let's just be honest. Like,
that's me.
People like that. Yeah, right. Even in the business. So like, I'm not going to make filters. We're not going to have that conversation. So path number one is they don't change it. And then something breaks down. Then they fall into that, 1%, right? They need the system replaced. But the other pathway is like, they just kind of do what's convenient, right? And so they go to, Home Depot or Lowe's or Kroger or Amazon, of all places, of course, and they get their air filters, maybe on a subscription, maybe just ad hoc. That entire part of the market is really out of touch for you today. They're not going to respond to your ads. They're not going to see the tune-up ad or the replacement ad, and it's not going to register with them. But like in Peterman's case, like, you've got brand affinity. People know who you are. Let's let them do business with you for $80 a year, right? Or $50 a year. Let's let them become a Peterman customer, and let's put your brand in front of them. The other element of it is, and we could go on and on and on about filters. You think about memberships. Like, a membership can in many ways be a very non-tangible thing, right? It's Peterman's going to come out twice a year, or maybe not because of advanced technology. Maybe it's all remote diagnostic stuff. But that $24.99 is sitting in the account every month, or however you guys bill it, or however anyone bills it. And they're not seeing something physical. Filters are a great way to remind that customer, like, hey, we're bringing value to you all year long, and putting that Peterman brand, like, hey, change your filter. Hey, your filter is on the way. Hey, don't forget to change it. Oh, the shipment's delivered. So it's a great way to, entangle the customer a little bit, make those memberships a little bit more sticky.
Yeah, I think the other piece too, and to touch on that point that we look at right now, is when you scale your membership, it becomes increasingly harder to fulfill the membership. Like, we have 31,000 members across the company. Well, like, that's 2 visits a year. So that's 62,000 truck rolls. That's 62 tanks of gas. There's 62,000, technician. You got it. Like, the scale becomes almost impossible. And that's why, solutions like, Smart AC and a bunch of these other things, where I think the membership works, but it only works if you view it in a much similar lens as to what you're talking about with filters. Is the reason that people are on a membership in today's day and age, I think, is because now they have a guy that they can call. And why not look at a filter subscription where you don't have to fulfill anything? And I know when your membership base is small, because we were in this place, is you need those visits to keep your guys busy in the off season. Totally get it. But why not sell them something that's tangible This is the one thing I've always looked for is like, what can I sell them that's tangible? Right now, I just have to sell them skilled labor, and that can come at any time because it's emergency based. Whereas with filters, it's my belief that I would much rather have 31,000 filter subscriptions at this point than I would 31,000 maintenance contracts, because you guys take care of the fulfillment. They sign up themselves. And what's to say I can't call them and say, hey, notice what you're one of our filter customers. We'd love to come out and take a look at the system this spring. Because most of our customers don't. We just introduced a reschedule link on our confirmation, and you would be amazed at how many people reschedule, but it makes sense. I've rescheduled my physical, I think 7 times when they send me the reminder because I'm like, crap, forgot it. Oh, crap, forgot it. Something popped up. Well, do they really want a technician out to your home, like in the middle of the day, especially if they just installed the system? So essentially you're rolling a truck at $0, or you could look at a filter subscription where you've got that customer, you can market to them through email, text, whatever's free, and look at it from that perspective. Is that what you're thinking? Because that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's exactly. And thank you for mentioning the fact that, yeah, we do all the operational stuff. We do all the packing, all the shipping, all the emails, all the communication, all the payment processing. And then we direct deposit the margin, how much the customer pays versus how much all that costs in your bank account. And that should be meaningful. But I want to think about like the 10 or I want to take a 10 or 15 year view of like one customer for you. Let's say you installed a system for someone 8 years ago. At some point, inevitably, they're going to need some major service over the next couple of years, and then maybe a replacement in the next, short order after that. It's really important that you keep that customer away from Google for anything related to HVAC whatsoever. Even if it's, maybe they're thinking, oh man, Peterman's coming out to do my maintenance. I haven't changed my filter. I don't want to go to the store. I'm going to, 20 by 24 by 1 12 pack near me, whatever. And they start searching those things into Google, you know exactly what's going to happen. Every internet marketing company who's worth their chops is going to retarget that customer with their clients, right? Home Advisor being one of them, right? Home Advisor is going to tell that customer instant AC quote right here. Everything you need to know about an air filter right here. Then they're going to try to get that customer and sell that information to your competitors. Like, you want to keep your customer from searching for anything. So I think about like taking a 10-year view of the customer. You install the system as part of your standard workflow. When an install crew is at the job, they want to let the customer know, hey, you've got a 20 by 24 by 4 Aprilaire filter that's going to go in this cabinet. And we're going to set it up so that one of these shows up every 6 months for the next 10 years. One, that keeps it under warranty, and two, make sure you don't ever have to hassle with it. And then Peterman's making the gross margin. The customer's having great experience. And I go on and on. But yeah, we want to keep that customer engaged for as long as possibly can.
Yeah. And I think the other piece too, at least this is how I'm looking at it. Like, I'm not going to, we're not going to get rich selling filters. Yeah. Is the margin great? But it's more, to me, it's a customer acquisition and a customer retention tool. And it's a service, to your point, where you can keep them off Google and keep them in your own backyard, knowing that, yeah, Peterman Brothers takes care of literally soup to nuts, anything that I need with any of my mechanical systems in my home. Obviously HVAC being the biggest one, which I think is so genius. And I'm so excited to get this rolling. We're already like, I'll be interested when we get it launched and we send a text message to our customer base, how many people in one day we can sign up for a filter subscription. Like, it'll be pretty cool. Because I think it's something that's needed, right? Like, I even admitted, I don't change my filter. I got to like walk down there, figure it out. And now like I can't even check them out of the warehouse because it's inventoried and all this stuff. It's like, no, I'll sign up. I mean, everybody on our leadership team that's been working on this project is like, yeah, I'll just go on there and sign up, and they just get delivered. So like, to me, it makes sense on the filter side, which I think if you look at it right, it almost, to me, it doesn't make sense not to have.
You're absolutely right. And that's the challenge, or the battle we've been fighting, not really fighting much more anymore, but for years. Like, if I tell my sales team, like, if you have to convince a contractor why they should want to build recurring revenue and sell filter memberships to their customers without the operational hassle and be competitive with Amazon and not have to lift a finger. If it takes any energy explaining that, they are not our ideal customer. We probably shouldn't work together because it's just absolutely obvious why it makes sense. But I'll challenge you on something you said about not getting rich on filter sales. I'm not going to, you would be surprised, particularly with your scale, what the compounding impact of having, a customer with a 25% gross margin once a year over thousands of customers, what the direct deposits look like. So we have a customer that actually operates in your market and, hundreds of thousands of dollars in retail filter sales. So, definitely 5-figure deposits happening. You'd be really, really surprised because, again, back to the TAM. You may have a customer in Zionsville who has no real need to invite you out to their house, but they're like, oh, I can get a membership with filters included for $19.99 a month, or I can get a 12-pack of filters once a year for $6 a filter, or even better, I have this specialty filter that is, I order from Amazon. I always get generics. I always get the wrong one. The nominal size isn't right. It doesn't fit, but I can get a genuine OEM filter from Peterman for $45 delivered to my house. And like, that's a really good, that's a customer who may have not been in your circle for a long time.
I'll tell you one of the things, and this may be, hopefully this is a nugget for listeners. So one of the things we're also thinking about with this product is greenfielding locations. Like, can I go into a market? Can I sell 500 filter subscriptions, knowing that I don't have to fulfill anything? And because there's tons of filter, like you get online, you Google filter delivery, there's tons of companies that do it. And so you may not have the brand recognition there, but can you have like a customer facing retail look that people just buy filters, and then all of a sudden you've created a customer base for not as expensive as going and buying a company or something like that. You create the customer base and then build the team that goes and then starts to monetize those customers.
Yeah. And one example, an example that a contractor shared with me once, similar kind of model, not in the Midwest, but their idea was, hey, we're going to sell memberships and we're going to offer to install the filters for free. So that's going to be for the customers who need them to go down. This is a startup company. For the customers that don't want to go in the crawl space or don't want to go in the attic, they'll schedule a replacement. They'll go out to the home, they'll diagnose this or whatever. They'll do a quick assessment, but they'll build that relationship and schedule that next service call, schedule that next cleaning. And, at your scale, that's going to be a little different. But, another thing that people are doing is including filters in their membership plans. So in Charlotte is a great example. We have a contractor here who competes heavily against Morris Jenkins. I say that proudly. Morris Jenkins is one of the best companies in the world. Okay. And this company is one of the top 3 or 5 companies here. And their membership plans all kind of stack up, right? They're all the same price. They all have the kind of bulleted items, except for one membership includes a year's supply of filters for like $4 more a month. And so you can spend $19.99 or $24.99. And at $24.99, you'll never have to worry about filters ever, right? And so they're using that as a way to differentiate. And so then what they do is they actually set that customer up in Service Titan with a recurring filter shipment. And they just process the direct shipment direct through Service Titan. So they're billing that customer once a month. And then when that anniversary comes up and it's time to ship filters, boom, filters show up at the customer's doorstep with the contractor's logo on it and all of that. So a lot of cool different use cases we're going to get to explore together.
Yeah. I mean, I think the cool thing about it is, and I hope listeners and contractors alike, like, this is something that we've never had at our I mean, you've been in existence, but like, it's something that I think is something to look at because it's the first tangible thing that we can like sell to a customer that isn't in need of it. Like, they're in need of it because they need to do it, but like, they have to do this. This is part of like their, thing. And like, it's the thing that we've been saying around here is like, the best maintenance that you can provide to your system is changing the filter. It's even better than me sending a guy out there. If you just change your filter regularly, you will maintain your system.
It's wild because it's so obvious, but everybody, you and I included, we delay the process, delay the purchase, whatever. It's like out of sight, out of mind. So it's your job as a contractor to educate the consumer and get them to do that. And if that can open you up to a new channel of customers who, again, normally wouldn't invite you out right now or are not ready, what you want to stay away from is that 1% of the market that is going, how much is an ACA or how much is an HVAC unit near Carmel, Indiana? Like if someone's searching that in Carmel, Indiana, Peterman's failed, right? You had that opportunity, and you get what I mean by that. Like someone should never have to ever wonder best HVAC company near me in Carmel, Indiana.
Yeah, one of the things I'm working with Lenny Gray, who's like the door-to-door millionaire. Tommy's had him on his podcast before. Like, my thought is, can you sell filter subscriptions door to door, just like they sell pest control, just like they sell all of this? And I'm like, if you could do that and just attack neighborhoods and just, oh yeah, your neighbor's on a filter. I mean, like you would crush it if you can build out that system. Now that's a whole different model and something that has to be built out. But I just think there's so many use cases for how this product could be presented to customers. I just think it's endless.
There really is. And it's one of the cool things that's actually a consumable that's recurring in our business and low cost of acquisition. And then with us, it's a low operational burden. I mean, you don't lift a finger. So
yeah,
that's
the part I love. I'm like, so we don't touch it. This is fantastic. I love that stuff. We have to touch everything else in our business in order to put it in. Now, I want to transition a little bit because I think one of the cool products you have, and I want to tell you a story about a place that I was at not too long ago where I saw this and I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. Tell us a little bit about the online sales. So I think this is the piece of your business that you guys are really trying to get out there. And, you talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but I want to talk about it because I think there's a lot of cool stuff and we're doing some things that are similar, but I think that there's a lot of pieces to this kind of online sales and like not even online, but like just virtual sales. Like, do we always have to go into a customer home in order to sell a new system? My belief is no. Like I can see a world where you may not have people that go into the home. Who knows? I don't know what that looks like. And then maybe that's way down the road or something like that. But there's a lot of movement in this space.
Yeah. Do you mind sharing who you saw it through or who you were visiting? Do you recall?
Yeah. So I was out. So super cool. And I encourage any of you listeners to get outside of our industry if you're in the industry and go see other places. So I watched this at All My Sons Moving down in Dallas, Texas. So they are 94 locations all across the U.S. And what's different is they're, if you want to call them technicians, they don't have technicians that go into the home. All of their technicians are in essentially a customer service center that are selling these things. But essentially, they built a system, much like yours, that walks a customer through getting their moving quote. So All My Sons, they move people all across wherever. And so they had this system and a customer literally went through and basically built their own quote. And then what happened was in their system is once you clicked submit to get a price, it auto rang into their call center. And someone was on the phone right there and like, okay, well, it looks like your quote is going to be, $800 and it, all that stuff. And we can get that set up for you tomorrow. How's that sound? And they were just closed. It was like clockwork. It was the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
So that is the absolute most perfect analogy. And here's why. If anyone listening to this has ever had to move, let alone move across the country, the first thing you need to know is how much is this going to cost, particularly because people don't do this every day. So you move across the country about the same amount of time you change your system, your HVAC system out, right? So it's the first time you're encountering this, right? You're now in the 1% of the addressable market that has to make a decision. If you search that today, how much does it cost to move from Indianapolis to St. Petersburg? You'll find awesome calculators on there. You'll find a bunch of cool websites. 99% of them are technology companies that are going to sell your information to all these moving companies. And so if you've moved, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You get blown up. Same thing happens in the HVAC industry. You search for that information. 99% of the companies that show up are technology companies. Now, contractors are starting to pop up like the moving company, where they're like, you know what? No, we're not letting our customers go through that process. We're going to, if a customer is curious how much it costs to move from Indianapolis to St. Petersburg, we're going to answer that question because it's a reasonable question. That is allowing a consumer to get further through the buying process directly with a brand. And so that is what we've created. And that's what we're doing in HVAC and plumbing and electrical and other verticals now as well. But I want to go back to something you said earlier. You referenced online sales, which is how I would reference it. But one of the things that I do when speaking with people about this subject is really reframe the buying and shopping versus the selling aspect of what you're doing. Let me explain this. If I'm standing in front of a room and I ask people, like, how many of you bought a car online? If there's 100 people in the room, I've done this many, many times, like 3 or 4 people will raise their hand and say, I bought a car online, right? But then when I reframe the question and say, how many shopped for a car online? Almost the entire room, with the exception of one guy in the front with his arms crossed, shopped for a car online, right? They went through the process, they configured their options, they looked and they figured out what's platinum versus limited and 4-wheel drive versus 2-wheel drive and what are the colors and what's the availability. And then when they were ready to pull the trigger, they engaged with the brand and then they showed up at the dealership and then they followed the same process they normally followed to buy a car, right? I would tell you I bought my last few vehicles online. No, I shopped for them online. It's way different. I closed the deal in the dealership. The car industry 10 years, well, no, I guess this is now 15 years ago. They were terrified that when they put pricing online and they allowed people to see options and compare options, that all the other car dealerships were just going to drop their prices. It was a race to the bottom, that the dealerships would go extinct, that they would have a real estate problem, that there'd be no reason for a car dealership. You don't see car dealerships closing. They're actually doing just fine. And when consumers show up in a car dealership, they don't have to explain to them the difference between platinum and limited. And they don't have to say, oh, I'm sorry, you thought this BMW was 40 grand because you bought one 20 years ago. It's now 115. The consumer's going in knowing, like, yeah, it's 115. I'm gonna try to get it for 113. Like, they're conditioned. So that is what's happening in HVAC. Some contractors are terrified of it. Some are leveraging it. And the people using us are using what we call online shopping or online buying journeys, where the consumer lands on the website and there are clear calls to action: get an instant quote, online quote, buy filters, whatever that is, sign up for the club membership, whatever that is. And then they're going through an interactive process that takes like 20, 25 seconds to gather their information. Where's your system located? Are you looking for heating and cooling? What's your energy source? Is it natural gas? Is it electric? And what's your approximate square footage? And it's giving them a very clean, elegant, good, better, best, sometimes 4 systems, monthly price, cash price, whatever people are comfortable with. And then they're following up with that lead the way a car dealership would follow up, where they're like, hey, I saw you were on the website and you were looking at a quote. That is unusual. Most people don't do that at 10 o'clock on a Friday night. Is everything okay? Do you need me to send a Peterman truck out for service, or are you just planning? Oh, you're just planning. Okay, cool. Well, there's a lot of things to consider and blah, blah, blah. We book a meeting, we go out, and then you do it the Peterman way. So that's what we're passionate about, if you can't tell. And people are killing it, man. It's been a fun to take it from hypothesis to like the actual millions of dollars of revenue it's generating for people has been so rewarding.
Yeah, and I bring that up mainly just because, like, I think that, times are changing. People buy differently. Like, here's a great stat. We have year to date, we've sold almost 400 new systems. We've installed almost 400 new systems that we sold over Zoom. So it's here. It's here. A lot of our what listeners would deem like a turnover from a service tech goes out. It's a 20-year-old system they need to replace. A lot of that just turns into a Zoom call for us, and that Zoom call is the customer does it right there on their computer, and they're selling systems over Zoom. And so I say that because while not the same, it's similar in the fact that customers are okay buying online going through all of these things to find the thing, to find out what it is. Like, there's an element, I think, of yours that it's speed to lead is what we always talk about it. Like, how fast can I get there? Well, if you allow your customers to go through a buying journey, that's getting them information faster than they would ordinarily. Well, I got to call and I got to book an appointment and then I got to take the day off work, only for them to tell me that they're going to need me to take another day off work to install the stuff. And all of these things like pile up. And I think if there's anything that we all can like look introspectively at is like, we're all busy. Like, when do you have time to do all of this stuff? Well, it's usually in weird times, 10 o'clock on a Friday night, like, oh yeah, I need to build this. I mean, I don't know how many times I've built cars and you just see the price kind of going up as you add features and all of this stuff, but you're just curious, right? And to me, it's a great way to, even if someone's just planning or just curious or whatever it may be, you have presented your brand to them so that when they are ready, here we are. You may not sell a system every time. That's okay. We don't sell a system every time when we go into the home. So why are we expecting it to be any different?
And you can quite honestly just run more estimates, and that, you're going to have people further upstream, and maybe you sell them a filter, right? Whatever. But I want to pause on the 400 customers year to date. So we're in June. I hear it's really cliche to say like, oh, I can't believe it's June. So I'm not going to say that, but I can't believe it's June.
Almost half the year's over. Where did it all go?
Almost half the year's over. Where'd it go?
Time's flying.
Okay. So 400 customers. Let's say all of those 400 customers on the install day, you guys sold them a subscription to either a 6 or 12 pack of 1-inch filters or maybe a couple April airs. That would come out to about $34,000 in annual revenue at about an $85 average order value. All right. So I'll break this down because people are driving. You have 400 customers. They're going to pay you an additional $85 a year for a filter subscription, right? That's about $34,000 in top line revenue. At a 25% net, you're going to net on that set of 400 customers about $8,000. About $8,000 in profit is going to go to Peterman if you're selling filter memberships at the install. That $8,000 is going to occur every year in perpetuity, as long as you're working with that customer. So let's assume it's 5 years, 10 years, whatever that is. But the compounding effect of just that segment of 400 customers that's just your install segment. That's just like, hey, I'm going to flip the switch to turn this thing on. You're going to need filters. Let's sign up for it, right? That $8,000 with no operational cost to it, like that can be deployed in a lot of interesting ways. Like I don't want to say mailbox money, but in many ways it is. Like, you can take that $8,000. Let's assume we double that number. So now we're like, hey, Peterman, granted scale, at the beginning of next year, you're going to have $16,000 of untethered marketing that you could use to deploy in a lot of interesting ways, right? Maybe it's to put it back into selling filter memberships. I struggle with this tension of like, it's not all about filters, but filters are so, so, so important. And a lot of people roll their eyes at that, but compounding profit is nothing to laugh at, even if but it's a bigger part of the market too. So I digress.
Yeah, no, it's, if I can create this $8,000, well, again, marketing's not getting any cheaper. So if you deploy that $8,000, how many customers could you attract essentially for free? Like, if you weren't, counting on those dollars in the door anywho, but you can then deploy those dollars towards selling more memberships or doing whatever. Well, all of a sudden, you just went to a place where no one else is trying to grab customers. Everybody is fighting on Google for the broken furnace. Well, that's why the price keeps going up and up and up and up for a lead. Well, where can you be? I was just talking to Ken Goodrich about this last week, and we're like brainstorming, like, where in this business can you go where others are not? To me, filter subscription is a place where not a lot of people are going. And so I think it's so interesting. And that's really one of the things we're thinking about is, how do we use products like this being a super simple one, because there's no service delivery. Like, I think we've prided ourselves so much on like, we'll come out and fix it. It's like, yes, we will, but also what else can we do to look, and we've got to look at like that, to your point, and you've mentioned it a couple of times, is like, we've got to look at that whole customer life cycle of like, how do I get them and how do I keep them is the biggest thing. Because their stuff will break eventually. But if I'm only spending dollars and I don't know when it's going to break, I'm spending a lot of dollars trying to attract a customer that may or may not need me right then and there. Whereas this, they need it.
It's so true. And like you said, like back to the operational burden, the challenge with customers is their expectation when they buy something online is really, really high. They don't want to have that experience with Amazon where something just magically shows up in a blue band the next day and then have to like take a step back and have lower expectations of what it's like to do business with material from Peterman. So it's got to be the same. And so we've set up our business that like we are, it is the same in many ways. It will like when someone in your service area is a great example. When they place an order, if they were to buy that material or that filter on Amazon versus they're going to buy it from Peterman, they're going to get the same exact delivery experience. Sometimes the same, carrier, depending on where we're shipping out of and what's happening. But yeah, we're operating 7 days a week, and we didn't mention this earlier, but it's really important for us to have a lot of depth and breadth in our products. So we buy most of the genuine OEM filters directly from the major manufacturers and factories and bring them into our inventory. And then you guys get access to our cost and get to mark them up, and we do all the work. So it's quite the backing and operation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just think it's just such a no-brainer, right? I mean, we talked about it earlier. Like, why wouldn't you have it set up? I mean, there's process and procedure you need to work out, but like, get it set up and let it run. And what's the worst that could happen? Someone buys a subscription? Like,
right. Yeah.
You don't have to have any manpower. I mean, we're all fighting for, additional field professionals and where are we going to find these guys and how are we going to train them and build a school and all of this stuff. Like, this is a product that you don't need any of that for.
I will make a comment though about the like market segmentation of contractors. And there's a lot of different people listening to this podcast, but if you think about like you, and this isn't meant to be flattering, you're at the very, very top end of the market in terms of revenue and scale and operations. That's not a surprise. And then you go all the way to the low end of the market. You've got contractors who are really just fighting tooth and nail to get to 500, 600, 700,000 revenue, $1 million, hire their first guy. Then you have overgeneralized, then you have the core of the market. These are companies from 3 million to 4 million to 5 million up to 10 million who are just fighting it out every day. What I've found is, especially since COVID, since the rise of online, Facebook groups and the rise of Zoom and all of these opportunistic software companies that are kind of riding the wave of what Service Titan has done in the industry of, getting people to think about their business from technology. I say all that to say the core market likes to try a lot of things. They like to try this and they like to try this and they like to try this and they switch from this software to this software, or they sign up for this program or this AdWord campaign or this marketing company. And you can see a trail, like they worked with these 5 marketing companies, they worked with these 3 FSMs, they worked with these 3 manufacturers. I mean, there's so much of that goes on in the middle market, right? Where companies like you're a little more stable. Now, I say that to say the one characteristic that I'm going back to a comment you made earlier about it's a no-brainer. We agree. Like most people who spend 20 minutes with us are like, oh my gosh, I have to use this. This is amazing. Like that's how we've designed it. But the one characteristic we look for in the company is, does the leader have agency to make change within their organization? Because you can be a $10 million company and sign up for our software for whatever, a couple $100 a month, put it on your website and nothing happened because you didn't tell your marketing company, you didn't tell your staff, you didn't involve your people operationally. Like I'm having calls with your accountant team, right? Like you didn't tell people how this is going to work and why you're going to do it and why it's so important. You're not training your CSRs. CSRs are like, if you look at all the levers you have, Chad, in the business for driving this, it's going to be the CSRs all day. They talk to customers who need filters all day. So do your technicians, so your installers. So I say all of that to say, yes, absolute no-brainer. But if I would caution people, what I can't always see when I'm engaging with contractors is like, do you have the leadership to create change within your organization? Or do you just sign up for things and then turn around and go on to another project? Right.
Yep. No, that's a great point and a great call out for sure. Cause I mean, I was that guy for a long time, right? It's like you're trying everything you possibly can, thinking that, this is going to be the magic bullet or, whatever it is. So I think that's a great call out. And I don't think it's like, to me, I don't take that as like caution, but more so like just be aware, like just the awareness of like, hey, if I'm going to make this actually work, then I'm going to have to put like, it's not like just turn it on and forget it. Like you're going to have to work at moving these for sure. But I think once you have it in place, then yeah, I mean, you can roll with that, which I think is interesting.
And I like to say, like, if I'm working with a $20 million company that does a lot of commercial, and they're getting this up and off the ground. And the question we just asked really simply, like, if you can sell a, $50,000 rooftop to a major organization, you can sell a $100 subscription for air filters for that company. Like, let's not get those, like, you can do this, right? You can do this.
Yeah, I think that's all great stuff. And I can't thank you enough, Paul, for coming on. Again, I think this is something that, if you're a contractor and looking to, create this in your business, and, I think it's looking where other people are not and doing something that's a little bit different. I mean, even just the thought of telling your customers that they can order filters from you, like that makes you different right then and there. And I think you guys do a wonderful job of, kind of assisting in all the, I don't think it's a huge lift, but all the fulfillment, all the setup, all of the this, all of the that. So I would just encourage people to check it out. I think it's a great product. I think we're going to be trying it in a bunch of different ways to accomplish a bunch of different objectives, and some may work, some may not. But I think we're going to find some really good stuff with that. So I just really appreciate you being on, Paul, and sharing some of what you're passionate about in this space, and hopefully people got a lot of value out of it.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity, and I'm excited to kick things off with your team and celebrating your success. And if you're listening to this and you're not a contractor or you don't plan on having your own online store, go to Chad's website in a couple of weeks here and set yourself up, and you'll have Chad in your inbox telling you to change your filters. You'll have him, sending you emails with your order confirmation, and it will feel like Chad is walking down to the post office and putting a filter in a box for you. It's a cool experience.
Absolutely. This is the episode that just keeps on giving, right? Even if you're not a contractor, there's still value here, as you can go order your filters from us. But no, again, thanks, Paul. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in to another episode. Hope you found today's discussion inspiring, informative, as we looked at this wonderful product and how we're potentially using it and how it may impact your business. If you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. And don't forget to leave us a review, especially on this episode. I know everybody loves Paul out there, so make sure to give us a good review. Remember, growth is a journey. It's all about taking small steps forward. Keep pushing yourself, embracing new challenges, and never stop striving for progress. Until next time, keep growing, keep learning, and remember, you can't stop the growth. Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to get connected, you can find me at chadmpeterman.com. To see what our team's up to, you can visit petermanbros.com. As always, keep growing out there.